theaters Christmas production of Sherlock Holmes and the Christmas Goose. As our show takes place in the 1880s, we ask you at this time to please turn off any devices that haven't been invented yet, such as cellular phones and music players. Also, please, no flash photography. And now, let us take you to Sherlock Holmes' house on Boxing Day 1887 to watch the story unfold.
Season's greetings, Holmes. Oh, are you asleep? Sorry.
No, come in, come in.
Are you thinking?
Always, even when I'm sleeping.
Well, perhaps I interrupt you.
Well, not at all. I'm glad to see you. I have a case I'd like to discuss with you.
Another crime?
It's a puzzle. A striking and bizarre one. A perfectly trivial matter, really, but interesting. Oh, wait. I forgot. Aha!
Oh, I suppose it has something to do with that hat you're holding.
Very good, Watson, very observant. You, of course, know Commissioner Peterson?
Yes, is it his hat?
No, he found it. Its owner is currently unknown.
Well, how did you get it?
It arrived Christmas morning in the company of a good fat goose.
Well, where's the goose?
At this moment, I assume it is roasting in front of Peterson's fire. But back to the hat. Early Christmas morning, Peterson was making his way homeward down Tottenham Court Road. In front of him, in the gaslight, he saw a tall man walking with a slight stagger, carrying a white goose slung over his shoulder. Then, suddenly, a group of young ruffians came out of the shadows and made for the man. The man raised a stick to defend himself and broke a store window behind him.
How unfortunate.
Peterson rushed to the man's aid, but when the man saw Peterson coming, he dropped the goose, his hat fell off, and he ran away.
He probably feared Peterson was rushing to arrest him, or breaking the store window.
Most probably. The mystery now is to find the owner and return the hat.
Half the derelicts in London must have such a hat. I'm afraid this case may remain unsolved.
There is no such thing for me as leaving a case unsolved. The man is probably a Mr. Henry Baker. At least that is the name that was on the card tied to the goose's leg. For Henry Baker. Unfortunately, there are hundreds of Henry Bakers in London.
But the goose may not have belonged to the man who dropped the hat.
It probably did. If you look inside the band, you'll see the initials HB. Henry Baker, of course. Peterson wants me to find the owner and return the hat. He would have returned the goose as well, but unfortunately a goose does not keep forever, even in this cold weather. So, Henry Baker, whoever he is, has lost his Christmas dinner.
What do you propose to do?
Observe, my dear Watson. Observe.
What is there to observe? It's just an ordinary black hat. Much the worse for wear. The lining is discolored, and the initials HB are starting to fade. It's even spotted. Although the poor fellow has tried to cover the spots with ink, this hat tells us nothing, or at least, I see nothing.
On the contrary, Watson, you see everything. You failed, however, to reason for what you see. First, we know the man is intelligent.
Good heavens, Holmes, how could you know that?
A large hat means a large head, with a large brain. In addition, this man was once prosperous. This is an expensive hat. Note the band of ribbed silk and fine lining, but it is in terrible condition now, so obviously the man has lost his one.
All excellent deductions, Holmes.
And finally, the man seems to be having some trouble with his wife.
Perhaps you are right about the man's former affluence and his brains, Holmes, but how can you tell that his marriage is suffering?
This hat has not been brushed in weeks, and any wife who allows a man to go out in such a state, I shall fear, is having domestic problems.
He could be a bachelor.
More likely, he was bringing home the goose as a peace offering to his wife. Remember the note upon the goose's leg?
You have an answer for everything, Holmes. But since no crime has been committed, all this seems rather a waste of time.
Solving a mystery is never a waste of time.
The goose, Mr. Holmes. The goose.
You see, Watson, our mystery is about to develop. Yes, Commissioner. What about the goose?
See here. See what my wife found in its crop.
By Jove, Peterson, this is a treasure.
I think it's a diamond. A precious stone. I tested it. It cut through glass. As if it were putty.
It's more than a precious stone. It's the precious stone.
Not the Countess of Morcars's carbuncle.
Precisely. I read in the Times that it had disappeared, and the Countess is offering £1,000 reward for its return. And that's not even a 20th of its market value.
It was missing, I recall, from the Countess's room at Hotel Cosmopolitan.
Precisely. Ah, here it is. I marked the story. John Horner, a plumber, has been arrested. Remember that name, Watson?
I will indeed.
I wonder why Horner put the stone in the goose's crop.
Perhaps he didn't, Peterson. Let's find out. It seems while the Countess was staying at the hotel, some difficulties occurred in the plumbing. James Ryder, the attendant, called Horner to take care of the problem.
Ryder. I shall remember that name too.
Ryder took Horner to the Countess's room to do his plumbing, and when Ryder returned, Horner was gone, and the Countess's jewelry box, broken and empty, was lying on the bed.
Oh, sounds open and shut.
Nothing, my dear Commissioner, is open and shut. Ryder and the maid, Captain Couric, examined the room. The stone was gone. They called the authorities, who searched, but found nothing.
Was Horner apprehended?
He was arrested and taken to jail, protesting his innocence all the time.
He didn't, of course, have the jewel.
No, they searched him and his rooms. Nothing was found.
Well, what do you propose we do?
Find Henry Baker, the man with the goose.
So the problem is still unsolved.
Exactly. But I now have a plan. Watson, I would like you to take this advertisement to the Times. Found on the corner of Goose Street. A black felt hat and a goose. A Mr. Henry Baker can have the same by applying at 6:30 this evening at 221B Baker Street. That will flush him out.
Yes. If he sees the ad.
He'll see it. Have it inserted above the help wanted ads, which a man in his condition must be reading.
Oh, good thought.
I shall lock the stone away for security. Look how it gleams and sparkles. This jewel is the focus and nucleus of a crime. Although it was only discovered only 20 years ago, it is already responsible for 1 murder, 2 suicides, and countless robberies. Who would think that such a pretty little toy would cause so much trouble and be the purveyor to the gallows and the prisons? I shall lock it in my strong box and send a message to the Countess.
Then there's nothing more for me to do for the present.
On the contrary, Peterson, you have to go out and get another goose to replace the one you've eaten.
I shall. Although it was an excellent bird, I don't think I'll find another as good.
Well, Watson, let's await further developments. Come in, Watson. Come in.
Peterson asked me to deliver this goose to you.
Good. Place it on the table.
Tell me, Holmes, how did you know who was knocking on the door just now?
For a well-trained listener, a knock on the door is like the human voice. No two are alike. Your knock is most distinctive.
No response to our addict, I suppose.
Not yet. But I think we can expect a visitor within minutes.
Good heavens, how did you know?
I saw two men outside the window reading a newspaper. Come in! Don't be shy.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Mr. Henry Baker, I assume.
Yes, but how did you know?
You look far too intelligent to be outside in the cold without a hat, if you had a hat. Is this your hat?
Yes, sir. This is undoubtedly my hat. As you can see, it fits my head. And also my present financial condition.
We've had the hat and the goose for several days now. Why didn't you advertise?
I don't have the shillings to waste. I thought the ruffian who had attacked me had taken them. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my acquaintance, Mr. Breckenridge.
A purveyor in geese. You brought him to prove your ownership.
A wise move. He could hardly try on the goose to prove it was his.
The blasted goose. I'm tired of hearing about it.
Where is my goose?
We were compelled to eat the bird. It would have done no one any good if we had not done so.
But we have another one for you. About the same size and perfectly fresh.
It looks like a fine bird. I am grateful, and my wife will to be too. She was most upset that I lost her Christmas goose.
We still, of course, have the feathers, the legs, and the crop of your bird if you should want them.
No, sir. No, thank you. I don't want any reminders of my adventure.
You got the goose from me, if you need any proof. Although now the goose is gone, I can't identify it, of course.
Do you handle many geese, Mr. Breckenridge?
About 1,000 during the season. But this one has caused me more trouble than all the others put together. Well, Mr. Baker, our work here is done. Let's be going. I'm losing business, you know.
Just a minute, Mr. Breckenridge. That was an excellent bird. I might be in the market for another one just like it.
Oh, well, see me tomorrow at my shop.
May I be presuming if I asked you where you got the bird?
Yes, you would. I shan't tell you.
Good heavens, why not?
Now, Watson, it's a matter of no importance, but I can't understand why a simple question should anger you.
It may be a matter of no importance to you, but I've been pestered about that bird for days. If Mr. Baker weren't an old acquaintance, I wouldn't be here right now. When I pays good money for good articles, that should be the end of the business.
And it wasn't?
Every minute it's the same question. Where are the geese? Who bought the goose? What will you take for the goose? Anybody think it was the only goose in the world? I mean, how to go a man on day? A little fellow he was with a little wife and so nervous it almost made me sweat. Cold as it is just to look at him.
I assure you, sir, I have no connections to any other persons making inquiries. I was merely concerned as if it was a country bird or a city-bred goose. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to bet that it was a country-bred goose.
Ah, you would ya?
Don't you think we should be going? My wife is waiting.
Just for a moment, Mr. Baker. This man here thinks he knows more about birds than what I do. Were you willing to bet that bird was country bred?
That's right. In fact, I'm willing to bet a fiver.
You lose! It was sea-bred!
Now, just 1 minute. I'd like some proof.
You know, it just so happens to haven't we, Mr. Know-It-All? Well, Mr. Cockshaw, you sees that?
Well?
That there's a list of the folks from whom I buys. And that's a list of those to whom I sell. You see, Henry Baker. And you sees where I got that bird? Mrs. Oakshott, 117 Brixton Road, 249, right here in the city. And you sees the date, December 22nd. Well, what we got to say now?
Fine. You win. Here's your money.
I don't like to take your money. But geese are my business. And you're my goose today.
I really must take my goose and go home now.
I'll go along with you. And Mr. Holmes, if ever you want to do any betting again, you come and see me.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. You made this a merry Christmas for me.
That fellow was rude.
But that's just what I wanted to happen. He would never have shown us that list if he hadn't been a betting man. Not for 10 times what I lost to him.
You didn't know it was a city bird.
Of course I had to know and say otherwise, so I could be sure he would bet. He would not have bet if I had been right.
I suppose our next stop is Mrs. Oakshop, the one who sold the bird to him.
I don't think that would be necessary. I think our criminal will find us.
Good heavens, Holmes, why would he do that?
If he's read the ads, and I'm sure he has, he'll have to come to us for the goose.
Holmes, if I were a betting man, I would lose my bet.
Is this the residence of Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, it is.
Are you Sherlock Holmes?
No, I'm Dr. Watson. He's Holmes.
And you're the man who advertised about the lost goose.
And the hat too, don't forget about the hat.
Yes, of course, had to. I've come about them both.
Indeed, sir, and who are you?
I am the owner.
Indeed, sir, and what is your name?
Henry Baker. My name was on the goose.
I see that you have another hat, Mr. Baker.
Yes, of course. In this weather, I would never go anywhere without a hat.
And that is good because we seem to have lost your hat. Pity, it seemed new too.
There's nothing of it. It's really the goose I've come about.
The goose, sir?
Yes, sir, the goose you mentioned in your ad. It's the goose I want.
How interesting you should want the goose more than the hat.
Well, the hat probably didn't fit him very well.
That's true, it didn't fit well.
Too large.
Yes, too large.
Oh?
I mean too small, but forget the hat. It's the goose I want. And may I have it now, please? I'm rather in a hurry. My old mother and father are waiting for me.
About the goose, Mr. Baker. You see, I'm afraid
You haven't lost my goose, have you? I want my goose. I demand it.
Now see here, Mr. Baker, you're being quite rude.
Now, Watson, let's be fair. Mr. Baker's goose was no ordinary goose. In fact, it proved to be a most remarkable bird.
It was? I don't understand you, sir.
It laid an egg after it was dead.
An egg?
Yes, the most remarkable egg. The most bonniest and brightest little egg that was ever seen. Are you surprised, Mr. Baker? Or should I say, Ryder?
My name is James Ryder.
The attendant from the Hotel Cosmopolitan. And the little egg, the missing diamond, taken from the Countess.
I did. The maid told me about it.
The maid? Oh, the old story. The temptation of sudden wealth was too much for you? You have the makings of a pretty villain in you. You not only took the stone, but you tried to put the blame on Horner, the plumber. You and your confederate, the maid, rifled the jewelry case, took the stone, raised the alarm, and had that poor unfortunate man arrested. You
For
then went on
heaven's
to
sake,
tell...
have mercy. Think of my father and mother. It breaks their hearts. I've never done anything wrong before, and I'll never do it again. Please don't bring me into court.
Get back in that chair. It is all very well to beg now, but you thought nothing of poor Horner when you placed him behind bars for a crime he knew nothing about.
Give me a chance, Mr. Holmes. I'll leave the country and hide. There release Horner. They need my testimony.
We'll consider it. But first, how did the stone get into the goose?
After Horner had been arrested, I had the stone on me that it was worried the police would search me.
They should have.
I could have found no place in the hotel I thought would be safe, so I went to my sister's house, pretending I was on an errand to get my Christmas goose from her.
And your sister is Mrs. Oakshop.
Yes, she gives me a goose every Christmas. You see, she lets me pick it out.
So you fed the stone the goose, and got the stone into the goose.
But they were two exactly alike. I didn't know about that until I got the bird home. When I went back to my sister's house, she told me about the two lookalikes.
And the other one had gone to the geese merchant, Mr. Breckenridge.
Yes, and I finally talked to him just a few hours ago. He told me he had sold it.
Yes, to Mr. Henry Baker.
And I thought I was having such good luck when I read your ad in the newspaper.
But the real Henry Baker had already seen it. In fact, he just left with his hat and another goose.
If only I had seen it first.
It wouldn't have helped, Ryder. Your head is much too small.
Guess I'm not very smart.
No, you're not. But perhaps you're smart enough never to try anything like this ever again. Get out.
What, sir?
I said not another word, out.
I wasn't supposed to. I'll never be
No,
able to.
not another word, out.
Good heavens, you let the fellow go.
Well, I wasn't retained by the police to correct their mistakes, and Horner will be released.
But Holmes, you mean he...
No, Watson. It's the Christmas season. It's a time for forgiveness. Which reminds me, I think it's time to investigate another bird. Let's have dinner. Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah.
Your show and supporting Footlight Theater Company. If you enjoyed the show, tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy the show, tell all your enemies. Either way, we can't lose. Footlight Theater relies heavily on the generosity of our patrons to continue to produce our shows. And if you happen to have some money to donate to our show, a lovely lady will be happy to accept your generous donations on your way out. Thanks again, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Does anybody want to take any